Welcome to Creating Accessible Content Distance Learning Edition. My name is Jenna Fallbush and I'll be your host. I am one of the 8 Patents Project Specialists serving Indiana's public educators. Before starting with Patents in 2015 in data and outreach, and then becoming a specialist focused on supporting students with low incidence disabilities, intensive interventions for students with autism, PC and web accessibility, accessible content authoring, and elementary academics, I was a 3rd grade general education teacher. Looking back on my time in the classroom, I can see so clearly now the opportunities I missed to provide my students with truly accessible content. I got too caught up in the superficial level of how my materials looked, neglecting the true definition of universal access and design. That said, I'm very grateful to be here and sharing all that I've learned about accessible design with you so that you can change the game for your students. As I mentioned, I am a specialist for the Patents Project in Indiana. Patents stands for Promoting Achievement Through Technology and Instruction for All Students. Our mission is to support Indiana public schools in creating and sustaining an equitable learning environment for every student through universally designed access, engagement, and participation. We support students with and without IEPs. Our vast array of services are offered at no cost to our stakeholders. Each year we host 2 annual events, the Patents Tech Expo in the spring and Access to Education in the fall. We support multiple school districts in their targeted efforts to increase their understanding and use of accessible educational materials, or AIM, AEM, through the Aiming for Achievement grant. That application opens in the late spring of each school year. Part of our project includes the Indiana Center for Accessible Materials, or the ICAM. The ICAM supports students with documented print disabilities when gaining access to core classroom materials in accessible formats such as Braille, large print, digital, and audio files. We loan out assistive technology, including iOS apps, for 6 weeks at a time to support each student's access to the curriculum. You can stay up to date and find us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and in an e-newsletter and weekly blog posts. Additionally, we offer in-person and virtual consultations to support implementation of accessible educational materials, assistive technology, and universal design for learning. All of this and more can be found at patentsproject.org. That's PATINS project.org. For this presentation, it is my goal for you to define why we need to design and curate content for universal access, to recognize and apply the essential design elements to support accessibility, and to identify ways to check your work for accessibility. Please then share your feedback on the content and your learning through a short evaluation. It's time to get ourselves ready. Why digital accessibility? Let's begin our journey into the why by considering ease of access. Take a moment to consider this slide with different font colors, styles, sizes, and indentation on a very dark background. While the message of the slide isn't important, is all the text easy to read? How do you feel about the contrast? Are any of the fonts easier to read than others? What about the use of color? What about the placement of text? How about font size? Did you find some design elements on this slide easier to read and access than others? I know I have my preferences when it comes to my visual access to information. My guess is most of us do. But how do we set aside personal preferences in order to design for our students and stakeholders? I think we can find the answer by diving into universal design. Universal design is the design and composition of an environment so that it can be accessed, understood, and used to the greatest extent possible by all people, regardless of their age, size, ability, or disability. This is not a special requirement for the benefit of only a minority of our population. By considering the diverse needs and abilities of all throughout the design process, universal design creates products, services, and environments that meet people's needs. Simply put, universal design is good design. This definition comes from the Center for Excellence in Universal Design in Ireland. I felt that it was the perfect definition to support our efforts in creating accessible digital content for all students and stakeholders, because not only is universal design good design, it is the umbrella under which we put aside our personal preferences and create learning environments and instructional materials that empower the broadest range of all individuals. The next step in our journey takes us to some facts about individuals with disabilities in the United States. Consider that 20% of the population in the U.S. has a disability. That's 1 in 5. While some disabilities can be seen, others cannot. It is essential to remember that we are universally designing and curating content to provide equitable access to all individuals. Other disabilities are temporary, such as a broken arm, or situational, like trying to access a computer or phone screen in the bright sun. We never know when our physical or situational access may change, and the same goes for our students. The final step into our journey into why it's essential to universally design for access is that individuals with disabilities are protected by the law. The Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, guarantees students a free and appropriate public education, a FAPE. Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the ADA, and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act prohibit discrimination of individuals with disabilities in public spaces, including public and charter schools. They require effective communication with students and communities, in addition to the provision of assistive technology and physical access. Reflecting on the definition of universal design, good design means that we are providing access to the greatest extent possible no matter what. All individuals have a right to access. Like the late Congressman John Lewis said, "If not us, then who? If not now, then when?" I believe this is the frame of mind we need to take moving forward into the design elements section of this presentation. This is our time to create and improve equitable access for our students, their families and community, and our stakeholders. Let's get set for the next part of this presentation with these 3 tips. Firstly, know that this takes time and give yourself some grace. Take notes and keep a list of accessible design elements near your computer. Last, remember that being proactive takes time, but not as much time as it will take you to retroactively change or edit content. It's time to go. Let's dive into 8 accessible design elements. As we jump in, it may be useful to you to organize the following information into 2 columns or sections. For example, one column could be reserved for elements that seem simple and quick to implement, and the other column could be used for elements that you'd like to learn more about or for which you'd like additional practice. The first element to consider is heading and list structure. When creating universal access to digital content, I want you to consider the parts of a student's textbook. These books, similar to the screenshot of the nonfiction book to the right, are filled with bolded words to note their importance. Images support the content of the text. There are many visual working parts to support a reader using their sight to receive and comprehend information. However, not all individuals use their eyes to receive and comprehend, meaning that bolding words or increasing the font size will not indicate any importance to someone who receives digital information auditorily with a screen reader. The visual structure generated by these techniques needs to be created differently in our digital documents and websites to support individuals that use screen readers to hear website and digital content read aloud. In case you are unfamiliar with screen readers, they can be inbuilt into a system like Narrator for Windows, or they can come as programs to be downloaded like JAWS and NVDA. Heading structure not only benefits users of screen readers, but it creates the visual structure in your document or website for you. It also makes it quick and easy to insert a table of contents in Word or Google Docs. Plus, it creates a viewable outline for a fast overview of your document content. Check out this sample of a screen reader in action.
Hi, my name is Jason Holt. I'm with the Universal Access Department. Today we will be demonstrating a screen reader. With a screen reader, I, as a blind person, can navigate to a web page, and I don't use a mouse because I can't see where the mouse is pointing, but I can use a keyboard, and JAWS, the screen reader, will tell me where I am on the page and allow me to read various parts of the page. Okay, let's take a few minutes to actually see how JAWS works. Here we are at my main screen on my computer, and I want to browse the internet, so I will open up a browser. I'll press the Windows key.
Menu, search box, edit, type text in this edit field, or press up or down arrow.
and JAWS announced that I have a menu. Then I want to find my browser. My favorite browser is Firefox.
JAWS 17.0, one of Internet Explorer submit, Word 2013 submit, Firefox submenu
Oh,
406.
Firefox, that's the one I want, so I'll press enter.
Enter, leaving menus, Firefox, Mozilla Firefox, start page dash Mozilla Firefox, search clear.
That opens the browser. Now I'll press Alt-D to put my cursor in the navigation bar.
Alt-D, navigation toolbar, search.
Now let's go to our homepage, the community college's homepage. So I'll type SLCC
Period, E, D, U.
EDU. You notice that JAWS repeats to me each character as I type it. That way if I make a mistake, I can hear it and I can backspace,
Slash, U, HTTP, /
and I can retype it again.
U, search your enter address edit combo, SLCC.
Now I'll press enter.
SLCC dash Mozilla Firefox, page has 3 regions, 8 headings, and 68 links. SLCC.
Oh, it says SLCC. It sounds like I'm on the right.
I hope this preview of someone using a screen reader helps you to better understand what access to a computer can look and sound like for someone receiving information auditorily. Keeping this in mind, let's dive into how we can create an accessible structure for our documents and web pages with heading structure. To create an accessible auditory structure of a web page, we want to use the built-in styles offered to us in Microsoft Word and other apps, Google Docs, and website editors. Each document or website should have a top level heading, a heading 1. This is typically reserved for the title or topic of the page. Sections that fall under that topic can be made heading level 2, 3, or 4. It's important to note that you should not skip heading levels, though it is okay to move from a heading 2 to a heading 3 and then back to a heading 2 if that makes sense for your document or website. In other words, you don't want to start with a heading 1, move to a 3, and completely omit a heading level 2. It's important to note that simply formatting font to be bold, italicized, highlighted, etc. does not create the auditory structure of a document or web page. Rather, you want to use formal heading structure. To do this, you'll highlight the text to be edited and choose the matching heading level from the Styles drop-down or options. The methods for creating a heading 1 in a document and in a website differ slightly. When working in a website editor, a title text box is usually provided at the top of the page, as we'll look at on the next slide. The title text box is styled as heading 1 as a default. When working on a document, you must manually make the topic or title of your document a heading 1. Nothing will automatically be formatted as a heading 1 in a document as it would be in a website editor. Let's look at creating headings in a sample from Canvas, a learning management system. This is a screenshot from the admin side of Canvas indicating that at the top of the page, there is a specific box to add an assignment name to. The name you give to the assignment will be auto-formatted to heading 1. Should you want to add additional heading levels to your content in the main text area below the assignment name, you'll highlight the desired text and choose the matching heading level from the paragraph drop-down indicated by the rectangle in this screenshot. You should find that styling or formatting text in this manner is universal throughout most, if not all, document and website platforms. In this Google Docs sample, the title of the page, Accessible Digital Content, has been highlighted and selected in the background of this screenshot, and the Styles drop-down box is open, indicating that a heading 1 has been selected for this text. The second line of text in the screenshot reads, Document Accessibility. This text has been styled as a heading 2. Both headings have been formatted for visual users by their font size and boldness assigned by the default heading level settings, while creating an auditory heading structure using the Style menu for users of screen readers. The default font styles assigned to different heading levels can be edited if they do not work for you. Also, you may notice title and subtitle options in the Google Docs Styles menu. Please reserve these for something like a thesis or lengthy digital book creation, not for your everyday documents or web pages. Do you feel that creating a heading structure seems familiar, or would you need more practice when it comes to classifying this element in your notes? Lists and indentation are also part of a document or web page's structure. Please do not create lists manually with the use of symbols or numbers in the spacebar or tab button. Creating lists in such a way will not be read properly by a screen reader. It is also visually distracting, as I'll discuss on the next slide. Instead, use the formatting buttons for bulleted or numbered lists as indicated on the upper right of this slide that are provided in the toolbar of your document or website editor. If you are in need of indenting to the right or left, Avoid doing this manually with the tab or spacebar. Again, this type of formatting lacks accessibility for users of screen readers and may provide extraneous and unrelated information. For instance, they may hear blank space, blank space, blank space. I know I wouldn't care to see that typed out as a visual reader, so I don't want to create that nonsensical information for someone using a screen reader. Instead, use the formatting buttons for indentation found in your toolbar and as shown in the bottom right of this slide. This slide shares two examples of lists, List A and List B. Both were created in Google Slides. One was created with the built-in tools and one was not. List A on the left shows 3 items that break onto a second line. All 3 items share the same format, indentation, and left alignment. List B on the right shows the same 3 items and line breaks, but the indentation and alignment differ amongst all items. Which list was created with the built-in tools? That's right, the list on the left. Its formatting is consistent and it's easy to read. Plus, it has been properly designed for individuals who consume digital content auditorily with a screen reader. Moving on to our second design element, color and contrast. When it comes to color contrast, basic is best. Let's stick to black text on a white background as often as possible. This ensures proper color contrast. It can be intriguing to use a variety of colors, feeling like we're creating visually engaging materials, but oftentimes all that's being created is a struggle for your content to be received and understood. If you took the time to curate or create the content, it's only fair to you that it can be as widely received and comprehended as possible. To check your contrast, you can Google WebAIM Contrast Checker and explore the tool they provide for checking foreground color and background colors. I'll jump out to this website now for a brief preview. This site tests colors based upon contrast guidelines and the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG, W-C-A-G. These guidelines have been adopted by many countries globally as their accessibility standard for all web content. They have not yet been adopted here in the US, but I would expect that to happen sooner than later. Using these guidelines, web content is rated for its accessibility conformance on 3 levels, from level A to level AA to level AAA. Typically, the goal is to conform at least to AA in all standard areas. The WebAIM Color Contrast Checker allows you to find out at what level your contrast conforms. To test different colors, you can type in the hex code in the text box provided toward the middle of the site, which is currently displaying the default codes for a blue on a white background, or you can make your best guess as to the colors you're using by clicking on the color block to the right of the hex code box for both the foreground and the background colors. If you'd like to access the hex code for the specific colors you're using, you could try using something like the free eyedropper extension from Google Chrome. Another aspect of color as a design element is that it cannot be used as the only indicator of meaning or action. Users typically need at least 2 visual indicators for conveying meaning and action. You may have come across some common misuses of color with forms, links, charts, or graphs. For instance, online forms are everywhere, and they alert us when we forget to fill in a required box. Yet sometimes that alert is only indicated by the color red. If I'm colorblind, I may not even notice that the font color changed when looking back to see which box I missed. Sometimes we also instruct students or stakeholders to click on the blue button or purple link. Again, if I cannot discriminate between colors, it may be impossible to complete these actions. Now let's look closer at the use of color in charts and graphs, since this can be a barrier to accessibility. What do you think of this line graph? On a white background, it compares points scored by teams 1, 2, 3, and 4 in periods 1 and 2. Period 1's line is navy blue and period 2's line is light blue. The y-axis includes points scored from 0 to 100, broken down by quarters in light gray font. The x-axis indicates the team number 1 through 4 in black font. So, what do you think? Is this chart universally accessible? Does each part of this graph use solid color contrast? Are 2 indicators used to convey meaning of the information conveyed in this line graph? The answer is no. While it may be accessible to some, it is not universally accessible to a wider population. Let's compare it to this revised line graph that shares the same exact information but is visually accessible. All light gray font has been changed to black to improve contrast. Additionally, repeated shapes have been added to the navy line and light blue lines to support visual differentiation between the lines. Triangles have been added to the light blue line indicating the points scored for period 2. Circles have been added to the navy blue line representing period 1's points scored. The lines are no longer conveying information by color only. There are now 2 visual indicators. The information conveyed in this line graph is now more universally accessible and clearly communicated by simply adjusting the contrast and adding some repeated shapes to the lines. Let's move on and talk about our third element, alt text or alternative text. To begin, let's investigate a sample of alt text. This slide shares my Bitmoji with some text on the left and the alt text pop-up in Google Slides to the right. I access this by right-clicking on the Bitmoji and selecting alt text. In the description box, I've typed Jenna's Bitmoji with slight smile and the text, stay healthy, helpful, and calm. Notice that I did not include the word image before my description. Screen readers will announce image to its users, so adding the word to the description would be redundant and not necessary for understanding. I also included the exact wording in the picture, and we'll talk more about this soon. So alt text, quickly defined, means image description. For individuals who receive information visually, images often hold lots of information. Adding image descriptions or alt text to our images and graphics helps to ensure equitable access to visual content for users of screen readers. Alt text assigned to your images should typically be brief and contextually based, meaning that the alt text should reflect the information and meaning you would want someone using their site to glean from the image. Detailed graphics or images should be accompanied by a detailed description. Since alt text should be brief, I would suggest describing detailed images in a caption or in another document that you could hyperlink as a caption for the image. Alt text is not required for images that are purely decorative. Some alt text tools allow you to select whether the image is for decorative purposes only. To add alt text, you will select the image and right-click to add or edit alt text. You can also add it by selecting the image and then clicking on the image icon button provided in the toolbar as indicated by the arrow in the screenshot in the bottom right. This button is common to the toolbar in many website and document editors and appears to show a mountain and sun. Alt text should be added to the description field of the alt text pop-up that appears after completing one of these actions previously described. Though alt text is most widely supportive of users with screen readers, when it's added to your images, you are expanding the reach to users whose internet may not load pictures quickly or properly, as the alt text will be displayed in place of the image. Alt text is a feature that should be added universally to all digital images, no matter the platform. So, how are you feeling about alt text? Is it an element you'd classify as something you're comfortable with or that needs more practice? Moving forward to our fourth design element, font and styles. Similarly to the application of color, it's best practice to stick to basic fonts. Specifically, avoid the use of cursive or calligraphy fonts. Many fonts created for the web are sans serif, meaning they do not have any additional decorative strokes on the letters. Examples are Arial, Verdana, and Helvetica. Times New Roman is an example of a serif font. Please avoid justifying or centering text in your document or web page. Both change up the visual pattern of reading. Justifying text also adds inconsistent spacing, making it hard to read for individuals with dyslexia or other visual acuity needs. Typing with all capital letters should be avoided unless an acronym is present. Screen readers often read all caps letter by letter, which can be confusing if it's not an acronym. Additionally, using all caps can be also construed as yelling, causing it to be misinterpreted by some readers. Please reserve underlines for links when the content is shared digitally. That is usually one of the visual link indicators that's automatically applied to text when it is formatted as a hyperlink. When sharing content, avoid images of text and type the content instead. Images of text are not accessible because the text cannot be formatted to meet someone's unique needs, such as changing the font contrast, style, or size. Additionally, the zoom feature will also lack accessibility when an image is created of text, because when the zoom is on, oftentimes the text will become distorted, making it unrecognizable. Images of text must also be given alt text. The alt text should repeat exactly the words in the image. A meme is a common example of an image of text. We also experienced this use of alt text in the previous sample with my Bitmoji. Let's continue with the fifth design element, accessible tables, charts, and graphs. Tables are used in our world to convey organized information and data and should be reserved for this reason. So, when you create a table, please avoid using them for layout purposes only. Please also avoid merged cells, as this can be confusing for users of screen readers. Should the table break from one page to another, it is necessary to repeat the header row on each additional page, which can be done in the table settings or properties in Microsoft Word. Think about yourself when using a sheet in Excel or Google Sheets. If the header row isn't frozen in place as you scroll, it can be tricky to remember what each column represents, especially if there are a lot of rows. When it comes to creating accessible tables in a website editor, you may not find the required options for making the table accessible. In this case, I suggest creating the table in Word because the options required for table accessibility will be available to you. You'd then create a link to the new doc with your table from the website or learning management system. From experience, Canvas does not allow users to create accessible tables in their editor without manipulating the code. Like tables, charts and graphs are another visual tool for sharing data and information. However, they often lack accessibility for users who receive information through different means, such as auditorily or tactically. To improve the accessibility, I offer two solutions, though there may be others as technology advances so quickly. Firstly, consider pairing the chart data with an adjacent table of the same data set. If you choose this option, you'll need to add a short alt text description to the chart that summarizes your chart or graph data and indicates that the comprehensive data set can be found in the adjacent table that you've already ensured has been edited for accessibility. A second option for improved chart and graph accessibility is to add a long description of all the chart or graph data in an appendix or other preferred location. Then add a short alt text description or caption to the chart or graph, summarizing the data set and indicating where to locate the long description. This may include adding a hyperlink to the long description in your caption. So where would you put accessible tables, charts, and graphs in your classification of design elements? Something that seems simple or something requiring more practice? Captions are our sixth design element. The greatest feature of providing captions for all recorded content is that they maximize time spent reading for users. Captions support improved access to literacy for English language learners, emergent readers, students who are deaf or hard of hearing, viewers in a noisy environment like a gym. The list goes on. To design universally, it's necessary to ensure that videos and recorded content are properly captioned. YouTube will use automatic speech-to-text to caption uploaded videos. Because it's not 100% accurate, it does require the user to edit the captions. Amara.org is a website that will allow you to crowdsource captions to videos you do not own, meaning that with a free account, you can paste in a link to a video that isn't properly captioned and then caption it in a variety of languages using their editor. You could even put together a volunteer group to help caption the videos for you using Amara.org. Also, during live presentations, please consider turning on the automatic captions in Google Slides or Microsoft PowerPoint. Both platforms use automatic speech-to-text captions, so they won't perfectly capture your speech, but they do a fairly solid job and the performance is always improving. I do want to note that automatic speech-to-text captions are typically not an appropriate accommodation for a student who is deaf or hard of hearing when captions are listed as an accommodation in their IEP. You can find more information about captioning tools by visiting tinyurl.com/crowdsourcingcaptions. There you'll find a wealth of information on many different resources to help support the captions of your content. Moving on to the seventh design element, links. The internet is full of links that allow us to access information on an endless number of topics. This is one of the many wonders of the web. When we provide links for our students and stakeholders, it is essential to make them universally accessible. This ensures that they are visually distinguishable, which goes back to the element of color contrast. The link color must meet contrast guidelines, and the contrast can be checked by using WebAIM's Link Color Contrast Checker. Furthermore, it's important to create descriptive hyperlinks instead of pasting or typing in long URLs. Descriptive links inform the student or stakeholder where the link goes or what it does. The reason for this is that screen readers will read the entire link out loud, including each individual character that may be attached to the end of a URL. Listen to this sample.
Bullet, https://docs.google.com/document/d/1te2j w4hcbvcs1w1lk2j2nt and jrgj3px/edit ts=5b963d4 unselected.
That is a 19-second clip of one link being read aloud by a screen reader. This use is not respectful of a student or stakeholder's time. Please also avoid using phrases like click here, read more, or link to. These phrases are ambiguous and unnecessary because an individual that uses a screen reader can navigate a page by moving from link to link. Neither click here nor read more describes what the link does for them. A user of a screen reader may find themselves asking, why should I click here? Where will it take me? What am I choosing to read more about? Additionally, typing the words link to in front of the link is not necessary because a screen reader takes care of alerting its users to the fact that the text is hyperlinked. In some situations, you may find yourself wanting to share the URL so that your students or stakeholders could type the link into their device without having to access the hyperlink. In these situations, I recommend using a link shortener such as bit.ly.com or tinyurl.com. Both tools allow users to create custom shortened links, which is a bonus. An example being the tinyurl my project uses for our evaluation link, tinyurl.com/pattonspgp. This more clearly indicates where the link goes than tinyurl.com/y3b6j7bs, which is the original shortened link tinyurl created for the same evaluation. As mentioned, Bitly offers the same customization in addition to some other features like counting link clicks and other data measures. Another customized link feature worth pointing out is the use of upper camel case as demonstrated in the title of this slide. Upper camel case means that when you are creating a custom link or hashtag, the first letter of each word is capitalized. This helps users see the words included in the text, making it easier to decipher and type in. The reason I like tinyurl is that its link customization feature is not case sensitive, unlike Bitly. This means that when I create a custom link using tinyurl, I can share it using upper camel case to improve universal access, but the end user doesn't have to worry about typing it with the proper upper and lowercase letters. A bonus tip when sharing a URL address is to remove the https:// at the beginning of the link. Almost always, this is extraneous link information that doesn't need to be included because our search engines will intuitively add that text to the link on its own. To create hyperlinks in your docs or website, highlight the descriptive text to be linked and right-click, selecting Add or Edit Hyperlink before copying in the URL to the website destination. Alternatively, you can use the keyboard shortcut, Command or Control, plus the letter K after highlighting the text to open the hyperlink pop-up in most platforms. You may also find the link icon shown in the bottom right of this slide in the toolbar of the platform you are using. This icon looks like two chain links linked together and can be clicked after highlighting the descriptive text to be linked before lastly inserting the link. Based upon what you've learned about descriptive hyperlinks, which link is well written for your digital content? Choice A, https://www.w3.org/tr/wcag20/ or choice B, Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. I agree. I believe choice B is best written as a hyperlink because it is descriptive and does not include any extraneous URL information like the HTTPS. It is more universally accessible. We've made it to the 8th design element, keyboard access. Part of universal accessibility is the ability to navigate online content with only the keyboard. This includes content shared in a learning management system. I've provided a link to some common keyboard commands for your access upon completion of the evaluation. Give keyboard navigation a try by going to webaim.org in a new tab or browser. Use Tab to move forward item to item. Pressing Shift plus Tab moves backwards item by item. The Enter and Spacebar keys can be pressed to select and open a link. The arrow keys can also be used to scroll up and down or left and right. I'm going to model keyboard navigation on the same site. As I click Tab on webaim.org, I am moving from item to item indicated by a blue rectangle. Shift plus Tab moves me back an item. Enter allows me to select an item. And on this new page, I am now using my arrow keys to scroll down and back up. Bonus tips for joining me today. Avoid flashing content. How quickly do you start searching for the close button when you visit a website and a video starts playing or content is flashing? Not only is it terribly distracting, it can cause seizures for some people. Please avoid it at all costs. Including accessible math equations in your content requires the proper formatting. Typically, a website editor will offer a button in the toolbar that looks like a square root of X, as indicated in my screenshot at the bottom of this slide. Microsoft OneNote and Word, Canvas, and Equatio are 3 different tools that support accessible equations. If you are inserting an image of an equation, make sure that it has been given proper alt text. Please note that when it comes to slide accessibility, all the previous elements apply. Furthermore, it's best to use the slide templates and layouts provided to you by the program you're using. Edits can be made to the master slide theme for global changes. All slides should have unique titles. If you find yourself in need of a duplicate title, a good suggestion is to include 1 of 2 and then 2 of 2 at the end of the title, for example. Another way to remedy this is to add the word continued to your second slide with the same title. Slides should also have a sensible reading order, which can be tested by pulling up a slide, clicking in the gray area to the right or left, and then using the Tab button to check the order. Wherever the tab starts is the first thing that would be read aloud. Titles are most often the first thing to be read, or first in the reading order unless a page number is present, in which case the page number should be read first. In PowerPoint, reading order can be checked and edited from the Home tab, then Select and then Selection pane. When presenting, make sure to verbally describe important images and their location on the screen to ensure total visual and auditory access to your content. If you are sharing printed packets or information for supplemental resources, don't forget to check them for accessibility. Stick to basic fonts with solid color contrast. Ensure the font is large enough to be read and that there is adequate white space as shown in the screenshot on the right of a worksheet. Avoid images of worksheets or other documents, since we know images of text are not accessible and would need alt text. Sometimes it can be tricky to avoid the cutesy worksheets with decorative fonts and images because we feel like our students will engage because it looks pretty. For the same reasons that some students like the way the worksheet looks, others may find it difficult to read and comprehend. From my personal experience, PDFs seem to be the hardest thing to retroactively edit for accessibility. Take that into consideration as you share PDFs with students, families, and other stakeholders. For example, photocopied text is usually shared as an image, meaning the text is not accessible. To check for accessibility, try clicking and highlighting some of the words or using Command F or Control F to find a word in the PDF. If neither of these attempts allows you to interact with the words, the PDF has been shared as an image. Some copier settings will allow you to choose how you share the document, and there are many apps that exist that will scan text with a feature called OCR, or optical character recognition, which is necessary in order to make the text accessible by a screen reader or text reader like Snap and Read. I've modeled the use of unique slide titles on this slide by including the abbreviation for continued as we further discuss PDFs. They must be tagged correctly. To check for proper structure and tags, you can run the accessibility checker in Adobe Acrobat Pro DC. Other PDF accessibility checkers exist. I just haven't had much luck with them personally, but please explore your options. It's also worth noting that both Microsoft Word and the paid version of Grackle for the G Suite will export your documents with the tags and structure you've already put into place, saving you lots of time and energy. Should you come across some old PDFs that still share relevant info and you'd like to continue to use, but you have a feeling or know they are not accessible, try locating the source document. Most PDFs originated in Word or Google Docs, and editing for accessibility in these programs is much easier than in Acrobat. There are tools to support you on your journey. That said, it is very important to understand that these tools are not comprehensive. Just like shopping around for the best contractor to add an addition to your house, it is necessary to get information from more than one source. One tool for checking website accessibility is the Wave tool from WebAIM. There's a free Chrome extension or a web version for your use. Please remember that you must run each page through the checker, as the tool only can check one page at a time. As new content is added, it's best practice to run the tool again to check for any unforeseen errors. Other accessibility checkers can be found in Google and Microsoft. Grackle is a free add-on for Google Docs, Slides, and Sheets. You can upgrade to the paid version for more features and functionality. Microsoft has built-in accessibility checkers throughout its apps: Word, PowerPoint, Excel, OneNote, and Outlook. We've covered 14 universal design elements and accessibility topics today. While I understand this was a lot of information to receive and synthesize in an hour, I wanted to share this information with hope that as you're adding content to a learning management system or website, or creating content in Word or Google Docs, you stop and think, wait, I think I learned something about adding descriptions to images. Let me go back to that slide deck or recording for review. Accessibility is a shared responsibility, especially when you have multiple contributors adding content to a learning management system or website. Rely on each other and support one another. You can find additional information on digital accessibility at tinyurl.com/specialty support. There you'll find a link to a self-paced module for practice of some of the elements you've learned about today. Another resource that summarizes today's information can be found at tinyurl.com/accesscontent. Lastly, webaim.org hosts a wealth of detailed and relevant information regarding digital accessibility and the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG. They are a trusted resource by many with lots to offer. Please reach out through email at jfahlbush@patentsproject.org. That's jfahlbush@patintsproject.org, or on Twitter at jlfahlbush. You can also like the Patents Project on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @patentsproject. We host a half-an-hour Twitter chat on Tuesdays during the school year at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Indiana's attendees can earn 1 professional growth point for attending. Thank you for viewing this presentation. Please take a moment to share your feedback at tinyurl.com/patenspgp. That's PATINSPGP. The link is not case sensitive and the evaluation is very brief. Your input helps us to improve our materials and to show the state of Indiana that we are a viable resource supporting Indiana's educators as a grant-funded statewide project. Upon completion of the evaluation, you will gain access to a copy of the slides. Have a wonderful day.